Good morning, everyone.
We'll start with Hanuman Chalisa, and after that we will do the first two shlokas, chanting of first two shlokas together, and after that we'll begin the rest of the class. Okay. ओम श्री गुरु चरण सरोज रज निज मनु मुकुर सुधार वरनउ रघुबीर बिमल जसु जो दायको फल चार बुद्धिहीन तनु जानिके सुमिरो पवन कुमार बल बुद्धि विद्या देहु मोहि हरहु क्लेश विकार जय हनुमान ज्ञान गुण सागर जय कपीस तिहु लोक उजागर रामदूत अतुलित बल धामा अंजनी पुत्र पवन सुत नामा महावीर विक्रम बजरंगी कुमति निवार सुमति के संगी कंचन बरन विराज सुवेसा कानन कुंडल कुंचित केसा हाथ ब्रज और ध्वजा विराजे कांधे मूंज जनेऊ साजे शंकर सुवन केसरी नंदन तेज प्रताप महाजगवंदन विद्यावान गुणी अति चातुर राम काज करिबे को आतुर प्रभु चरित्र सुनिबे को रसिया राम लखन सीता मन बसिया सूक्ष्म रूप धरि सिंहि दिखावा लघु रूप धरि लंक जरावा भीम रूप धरि असुर सहारे रामचंद्र के काज सवारे लाए संजीवन लखन जियाए श्री रघुबीर हर्षि उर लाए भरपति कीन्ही बहुत बड़ाई तुम मम प्रिय भरती सम भाई सहस बदन तुम रोजस गावे अस कहि श्रीपति कंठ लगावे सनकादिक ब्रह्मादि मुनीसा नारद शारद सहित अहिसा जम कुबेर दिगपाल जहाँ ते कवि कोविद कहि सके कहाँ ते तुम उपकार सुग्रीवी कीन्हा राम मिलाए राजपत दीन्हा तुमरो मंत्र विभीषण माना लंकेश्वर भय सब जग जाना जुग सहस्त्र जो जन पर भानु लील्यो ताहि मधुर फल जानु प्रभु मुद्रिका मेली मुख माहि अचरज जलधि लांघि गए अचरज नाही काज जगत के जेते सुगम अनुग्रह तुमरे तेते राम दुआरे तुम रखवारे होत न आज्ञा बिनु पैसारे सब सुख लहे तुम्हारी सरना तुम रक्षक काहू को डरना आपन तेज समहरो आपे तीनों लोक हांकते कापे भूत पिशाच निकट नहीं आवे महावीर जब नाम सुनावे नासे रोग हरे सब पीरा जपत निरंतर हनुमत बीरा संकट ते हनुमान छुड़ावे मन कर्म वचन ध्यान जो लावे सब पर राम तपस्वी राजा तिनके काल सकल तुम साजा और मनोरथ जो कोई लावे सोई अमित जीवन फल पावे चारों जुग पर ताप तुम्हारा है पर सिद्ध जगत उजियारा साधु संत के तुम रखवारे असुर निकंदन राम दुलारे अष्ट सिद्धि नौ निधि के दाता असवर दीन जानकी माता राम रसायन तुमरे पासा सदा रहो रघुपति के दासा तुमरे भजन राम को पावे जन्म जन्म के दुख बिसरावे राम काल रघुबर पुर जाई जहाँ जन्म हरि भक्त कहाई और देवता चित न धरई हनुमत से सर्व सुख करई संकट कटे मिटे सब पीरा जय जो सुमरे हनुमत बलबीरा जय 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 हनुमान गोसाई कृपा करो गुरुदेव के नाई जो शत बार पाठ कर कोई छूट ही बंदी महासुख होई जो ये पढ़े हनुमान चालीसा होय सिद्धि साखी गौरीसा तुलसीदास सदा हरि चेरा कीजे नाथ हृदय महडेरा कीजे नाथ हृदय महडेरा सियावर रामचंद्र की जय पवन सुत हनुमान की जय उमापति महादेव की जय बोलो जी सब संतन की जय। Just to give a little context to Hanuman Chalisa, why we are reading it, for specifically for Venkatesh and Kamal. This is something that is ordained by Maiya ji, who guides our entire parivar, and she had told us in late March that we should begin the Anushtan. It's on a private basis, like everyone on a personal basis should read Hanuman Chalisa, because she could foresee that there were a lot of negative energies that are going to swirl around the world. And as our way of contributing towards the positive forces, this is one of the practices, Anushtans or Nishtha, that um, she asked for all of us to do. And so we are starting our classes with Hanuman Chalisa, and we'll probably, although she had asked for 40 days, but given how we've seen the negative forces that have kind of like ravaged India, for example, through the pandemic and all, it just makes sense that we continue the Anushtan till the end of May at least. Or at least that's been the uh, that's been what has been told to us. So we are continuing with that. Yeah. So we just start the class with Hanuman Chalisa, and you're all recommended to because do this on a personal basis.
End of the day, I think all of us are also in situations, especially all of us living abroad, situations where we feel helpless about a lot of the suffering that is happening in the world. And this is our way of giving back our energy, our mind, our mental space, share our strengths with the people who really need it. It's no coincidence that when a person is on his last legs at bed, they start chanting the Lord's name, they start reading the Gita shloks, because all of this gives a lot of energy to those who are going through suffering. It gives them a lot of peace. So it's also said that the biggest dan that you can do is the Naam.
Namdan.
Namdan is the greatest dan that you can do.
So if you're physically there, actually physically working through things, that is your Shramdan. And Shramdan is very, very good too. But Namdan is the highest dan you can give with your time and your Namdan. So this is part of the Namdan that we as a Gita Parivar are contributing. Okay. So now we will do the first two shlokas chanting. Me and Abhinav will chant here. I'll request all of you to stay on mute but chant as a practice phase. Okay, we'll start now. Arjun Uvacha Jayasi Chet Karmanaste Mata Buddhir Janardana Tat Kim Karmani Ghore Mam Niyojayasi Keshava व्यामिश्रेणेव वाक्येन बुद्धिं मोहयसीव मे तदेकं वद निश्चित्य येन श्रेयोऽहमाप्नुयाम्. A lot of you have sent us your recordings, so thank you for that. For today's class, for this week, we will learn the Shloka 3. So in next class, we will read Shloka 1 to Shloka 3 continuously. And every week, as we go through our learnings, we will continue to chant till the point of learning for us. Okay, this will help to improve our diction, and it helps to like reinforce the words. And knowing the word meanings also is important because it helps to memorize the shlokas better. Okay, so so I think in last class we had gone through some very important first few shlokas, and we saw we saw Arjun ask um, ask the Lord what is his what is that which is best for him. So the most important word in this shloka 2 was the word Shreya. Shreya means that which is for your ultimate welfare. And the ultimate welfare, as defined here, is supreme peace and eternal tranquility. Even though there is a full war being waged outside, you still stay in that space. And that is the ultimate welfare. Now, this ultimate welfare, jisme mera hit hai, that which is best for me, for my best interest, is different from prem. Okay, prem and shreya are very different. When we say the word love in English, it falls in the space of Shreya and not Prem. Prem is Prem is basically moh, mamta. Okay, so for example, if your child comes and asks you for a chocolate, okay, and you give him a small piece of chocolate and they eat it, and afterwards they come back again and they ask for another chocolate, okay, and you what so you realize that it is in their hit, it is in their shreya, ultimate welfare, that we don't give them more chocolate, right? So you will say no, no, you will not get it. Now the child may again come back and he will cry and he will ask for the chocolate again and again. You may at that point of like, yeah, kya hai? He's asking for it again and again. Might as well give him one more chocolate. No. Now, if we do that, then it is prem. It is more. It is delusion, right? It is not for his ultimate welfare. But you're doing this out of delusion, out of moh, mamta, and you give him another piece of chocolate. Okay. But for his shreya, you will defer giving him that which is not good for him. And love falls in the category of shreya. That's very important to remember. Um, so when you say no to that child, Shreya uska, prem aapka, right? That is very important. Then,
And this comes up very often sometimes when it's like, oh, I'm doing the Gita, I'm learning all these shloks, but yet very difficult situations are coming in my life. Why is that happening? Why does the God not love me? When we go through tough times, these are questions we ask. And that's when we have to remember that it's difficult we perceive it as difficult, but He's doing it out of love because there is something for us to gain there,
like
whether
the
it's the
child
short
when
term or
he's
long term.
crying, right, for his chocolate, he doesn't understand why my parent is not giving me chocolate. Even if you try and explain it to him, right, in that moment of emotion, all he will do is cry. No, I want this chocolate. So similarly, we have to remember. So what is Bhagwanji's Shreya is when he is giving us things to learn, and all the desires that we ask for, all the resources, the worldly desires and all, they are part of prem. And it is not to say that you don't need prem. You will get as much prem from Bhagwanji as you need for your Shreya. As long as your ultimate goal is not to get his prem, but to get his Shreya. Get Shreya. That is very important. And he will give you as much resources, as much comfort, as many things as you need, that you need to go on that path of ultimate welfare. You will get as much as you need and not as much as you want. Again, a difference, right? And why do we not get everything that we want? Is because maybe we are just not mentally and emotionally and spiritually ready to receive all of that. Maybe that is what is going to cause our patan. Maybe that is what is going to lead us down that slippery slope to health. And so we may not always get everything we want, but we'll always get everything we need as long as we are using it for the ultimate welfare. Okay. Um, and you will also see that the Arjuna who's asking this question, he has changed from the Arjuna of chapter 1. The Arjuna of chapter 1 had a lot of ego, right? He said, Lord, take my, he's basically ordering the Lord to take his chariot, my chariot, take it in the middle of the battlefield. I want to see who has come to fight me, right? There was so much of ego in that Arjuna. Today in this chapter 2 chapter 3 shloka, the Arjuna, you can already see that his ego has dwindled considerably. He has understood. In chapter 2 he did a full surrender to the Lord, saying that I don't know what is of my ultimate welfare any longer. I need you to guide me here. So now he's surrendering himself. Yet at the same time you can see that he's saying, tell me what is my best welfare. There is still a little bit of ego where he's saying that I am not understanding everything, and that is not my problem, that is your problem. You are saying mixed up words. Vyami shreneva vakyena. It is your words that are all mixed up and you are confusing me. Okay, so there is still that piece of him there, like you're not explaining it correctly to me. There will come a time eventually where Arjun will reach a point where he will say, my best interest, my Shreya is your will. Tell me what is your will. He's not there yet. He will get there. Right now, his journey is where he is saying, okay, I understand that there is a difference between Prem and Shreya. I want you to guide me. And right now, you're not doing a good enough job. Explain it to me again. So Shri Krishna ji is going to explain it to him again. And next question that he asked was, then he Shri Bhagwan ji, when he told him about Jnana Yoga and Jnana Yoga, which is Sankhya Yoga, and Karma Yoga. Now, what is the major difference? I know it created a bit of confusion, and we talked a little bit about it last time. So, in very simple words, basically, how does a Sankhya Yogi look at the world? He says, "I'm not there, and you are also not there." When he's looking at himself, when he's looking at you, he's looking at a much deeper level. He's looking at everything in terms of atoms and molecules. Nothing else exists. You don't exist, I don't exist. It's just atoms and molecules. There are gunas of nature. They are coming together. They are doing something. Okay? So I don't exist, you don't exist. Very, very radical way of thinking. Karma Yogi says, I exist, you exist. I'm there and I'm doing what I'm doing. You are there, you're doing what you're doing. But both of us cannot do anything without the energy of the Lord. And so we are being driven by Him. And so there is this universal acceptance that everyone is a part of Lord. Everyone is doing their duty as per what they need to do, and they are doing to me what they need to do as a will of the Lord. That's the difference. For a Karma Yogi, I exist, you exist, but driven by his power. For a Sankhya Yogi, you don't exist, I don't exist. Um, and then so this is the journey that we have to go from. We have to go from learning what is wrong, what is right. You have to go from wrong to right. And when I say wrong to right, it is not wrong or right actions per se. There are no actions that are right or wrong. It is the purpose, the bhav, the thoughts that we need to work on. Okay. So we have to go from wrong to right to light. When there is light, there is wisdom. There can be no sorrow. There can be no darkness. The moment you switch on light, there is no more darkness, right? Darkness is just absence of light. So the moment there is wisdom, there is light of wisdom, there is no more darkness, there is no more sorrow. When there is no more sorrow, what doesn't exist? Likes and dislikes. Prem is likes and dislikes. Shreya is wisdom. So now we are going to so he also specified that irrespective of whether it is the path of Sankhya Yogi or the path of Karma Yogi, they are both based on eternal wisdom. It is based on eternal principles. These principles don't change at all, and that is why this is called a nishtha. It's a discipline. That is the word they've used is nishtha. Okay, but people who follow worldly values, those worldly values by their very nature are constantly changing. They are transient. And so there is no nishtha there because it will always change. It will keep evolving. So we need to, whichever way we go, but for us, he's made it clear, and we'll talk a lot more about it when Arjun asks, right? Like, can I not do these actions? Can I not indulge in these actions? Can I step away? Because you're asking me to be equanimous on one side, and on the other side, you're asking me to actually indulge in this bloody war out there. So can I not do this? And Lord is now starting to answer those questions.
Kakuli, would you help us read the connection between Shloka 3 and Shloka 4?
The question arises whether, in either of these disciplines, it is possible to give up the external effort involved in doing one's duties. By the term external effort is meant the activities which comprise the action involved in doing one's duties. On this point, the Lord clearly declares,
न कर्मणां नारंभाम
Na karmanam narambhan
नैष्कर्म्यं पुरुषोष्णुते
nashkaryam purushoshute
नैष्कर्म्यं
nashkarmyam
पुरुषोष्णुते
purushoshnate
न च संन्यसनादेव
na cha sanyasana deva
सिद्धिं समधिगच्छति
Siddhim samadhi gacchati.
What are the word meanings?
Yeah.
A person,
No,
a person.
she'll do
No,
more.
Kakali, I'll do the word meanings first. Sorry. So na is no. Karmana is karmoka, that of actions. Uh, na arambh, without starting, without starting. Nashkarmyam, nishkarmta ko meaning abstaining from action. Okay. Shoshnute is prapt hota hai, is achieves. Na is no, cha is and. Sanya sanadev is कर्मों के त्याग मात्र से, by renouncing the actions. Siddhim is siddhi, self realization. Samadhi gacchati, प्राप्त होता है, achieves, attains.
Yeah, now you may read the italics.
A person does not achieve freedom from the obligation of work by abstaining from action, nor can perfection be attained by renouncing action.
Yeah. So the essence of this question essentially is, okay, I understand there is karma. What if I just stop working altogether? Then I'm not adding any karma in my life. I just stop all my duty. I stop all my interaction. I stop doing everything. Then will my account like stay zero, and then I can come to you. So I stop doing all my work. Like that's the question that arises to all of us. Okay, maybe we should stop taking on more responsibility. Let's take less so that we have less bondage. Do interact less with the sansar, because this is all unreal. So why am I interacting with the sansar? Why am I doing duty? This is the question that is being asked. And the thinking here is simple, right? There is no such thing as inaction. Because as long as we have a body, we are in action. Our heart is beating, our lung is full of air, our blood is circulating non-stop at a tremendous fast speed. And and that is internally. We aren't even aware of it for the most of it. But even for that to survive, there is action, because I have to sleep. Sleeping is an action, lying down is an action. I have to eat, that is an action, right? So as long as we have a body, we have to do some action or the other. And even if we are to control our senses and our body, our mind will never stop. And collecting prarabdha and collecting karma is not just at the body conscious level, it's also at the mind level. Even your thoughts generate in you creating karma for yourself and prarabdha for yourself. So, and you cannot stop the mind. It acts non-stop, because based on the vasanas, based on our previous births, all our minds are inclined to chase certain pleasures. And even if we stop all activity right now, that mind constantly thinks in that angle, because that pattern of chain is set from our previous lives. So even if you stop action, you're constantly collecting more prarabdha, as your mind, when it's free, just likes to think about those things. Either it dwells on your past where you feel great about yourself, or either it dwells in other people and how they're not smart, they're not, whatever vasanas you have, or you're thinking about food, whatever it is, right? You're constantly collecting prarabdha. So in this shloka, he's basically, Bhagwanji is saying, there is no way you can achieve freedom or you can achieve self-realization without action. Don't be deluded for a second that you can reduce your interaction with the world and achieve self-realization. This is not a mechanism to escape duty. Yeah. So, and he breaks this up in two forms for us. So the first one is karma yogi, which is what we are, and then he talks about sankhya yogi, or in this shlok it's called jnana yogi. Yeah. Yeah. Kakuli.
Perfection of desirelessness through action in Karma Yoga. In the first line of this shloka, the Lord says that in Karma Yoga, it is not possible to give up the external effort in doing one's duties. In this discipline, a state of desirelessness is achieved through the medium of action itself. All actions are done in such a way that they lose their nature of consequential bondage, and a person is able to achieve a state of desirelessness.
So we understand the context. We have a mind, we have a body. We cannot ever be in inaction. What Bhagwanji is saying in that second line is, in this discipline, a state of desirelessness is achieved through the medium of action itself, which means as you do your action, as you do your responsibilities, as you do your duty, once you give up your results, your desires will disappear. And once you achieve desirelessness in this state of doing karma yogi, you attain self realization. Right? Yes, Anupama, you have a question.
Sorry, I didn't understand this part you just explained, like how I mean, your action would lead you to the state of desirelessness in terms of like, because I experience like the opposite, like when we work, we want to do certain things more, or we want certain results, in specific way.
So, I think we'll come to that a little later with very specific examples. But essentially, what this it basically highlights is, as a karma yogi, you have the right to your duty. You have the right to doing your work. We have to give up the fruits, the pleasures that accrue from it, and not give up in the sense that, oh, I'll give up my salary tomorrow, I'll just do work for free. It's just changing how we do that same action. Instead of doing that action because of your salary, you do it because you want to do the best for your company. Because if your company does well, then you will do well as a consequence of it. That is a principle of lok sangraha, and the salary will follow. But we get so attached with the salary that we tend to not do our work and our duty to the best of our abilities, because we take cut corners, we'll do the bare minimum to get the salary we want, we'll make excuses, today I can't do this, I can't do that. And so it's about changing the way we approach the duty we are to do, and not get attached to the results of that action.
Yeah, so 2.47, right? Anupama, 2.47 Shloka said, Karmanyeva dhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. That was the first line which he just explained. The second line was that at the same time, you have to give up you have to give up the attachment to the results of the actions, nor may you be attached to an inaction, because inaction itself is an action. If you abstain from doing an action, you are actually making a choice of not doing something. And that will create a bondage too. It will create a consequence. But in chapter 2, we have also been told how we are going to achieve the state of desirelessness. How do we do that? Because he said, first, you have to do karma. But how do you do karma has also been prescribed. And we'll again come to the same thing again and again through chapter 3 as well. So, what are those things? First, you have to start with tyag buddhi. Give up your ego. Whenever you do an action, do the tyag of your ego. You are doing something that has been given to you as an opportunity by God for your own uddhar. So you're not doing something for others, whether it is your duty as a mom, your duty as an employee, your duty towards your parents, or whatever other social relationships, everything in this world that you're being, all those relationships have been given to you for your own uddhar. So everything that you do in those relationships, the person you are being in those relationships is not for others, it is for your own uddhar. So first start with that tyag buddhi, not with an ego that I'm doing something for my children or for my company or whatever. So start with tyag buddhi. I'm doing everything for by because this duty has been prescribed to me by God for my own uddhar. That's one. So let's be grateful for it. Then, second, I will do it by the energy given by Him. So anything that I bring to that equation, whether it is some intelligence, my effort, the energy, or there is any specific skill set that I'm bringing to a situation, all of that is also a gift by the Lord, a skill, a gift that has been given to me by the Lord to be able to do those duties well. So I am not bringing this. It is being given to me by the Lord. Yes, Kakoli, I will come to you after I finish this. So, and yeah, Vizalakshay, you too. So first is, the second is this. The third is that this is being done for his pleasure only, not for the pleasure of the people around us. I have to do it with the right intention and bhav, and he knows what my intention and bhav is. And so I'm going to do my best to please him, not to get thank yous and gratefulness from other people or salary from the company. All of this will happen or may not happen, but I will continue to be the best that I can be in each of them for his pleasure only. And then whatever results come to me, I will take it with prasad buddhi. So you start with tyag buddhi, you get into gratefulness, you do everything with the best ability, and you take whatever comes to you with a prasad buddhi. If it is from a sansaric point of view, if it is a favorable situation, you are grateful that he's given you this prasad and consume it like prasad, right? There's a difference between how you eat prasad versus how you eat, normal food, right? So always consume this world and all the things in it with that prasad buddhi. That's one. And if it is from a worldly point of view, slightly unfavorable situation, something that you did not expect to happen, then take it with the prasad buddhi that it is here to teach you something for your own uddhar. Right? So when you do all of these things in this fashion, when you do your karma in this fashion, you will attain you will attain desirelessness. And how? Why? Because you are giving up the results anyway. You're not doing something to achieve that outcome. You're doing something because it is the right thing to do, because it is your duty to do. Whatever happens in the end, it will happen.
So, another clarification, suppose you are doing the work without any, I mean, you're giving your best, basically, not with result in your mind. But I've also noticed that when you do the work, you want to do more of it, like in terms of even good work, like give your best. And that is also like, coming from desire to bring the perfection or give your best. So that is not a negative thing to get out of, or is it like because that is also like a kind of desire, right? Like you want to give more, you want to um, give the best basically as much as you can.
Correct.
What is the difference between that desire and this desire?
So it's really clear, right? So it's we have that four stages to every action, right? So we have the purpose of an action, we have the bhav with which we do it, which is the intention with which we do it. The third is the action itself, and the fourth is the object or the material
Result.
consequence or the result of that action. Now, let me give you a very rudimentary example, like eating food. There is a purpose behind eating food, which is for our sustenance, for our body to get the maximum energy
And
with the
nourishment.
and nourishment with the input we give it. There is a bhav, an intention, which is when we are eating, whether it's vegetarian or non-vegetarian or whatever it is, what bhav are we grateful? Are we thankful to the farmer that actually toiled in the hot sun, got this together, and the variety that we have on our plate? Are we grateful to the entire system where we're allowed to, where we can have gas in our kitchen in such a controlled manner, fire in such a controlled manner to get hot food in our bellies on a daily basis? To the person who makes sure the ingredients are fresh at home and puts it together and puts it on the plate. Like, do we have that bhav? Do we even have that awareness? The third is the action itself. Are we eating it with uh, correctly, where we like, however you want to eat it? And the object is the end result, like the actual food. Or namak kam hai, ye jyada ho gaya, ye kam ho gaya, complaining about those things. in our life now, eating is something we do 3 times a day, and it's a, I would say it is symptomatic to a lot of to a way we treat a lot of other things in life, because we do it so often and so unconsciously. Most of us, me included, we interact at the action and object level. कि एक दिन नमक कम हो गया, you snap. Or in my case, I'm very particular about how my thali gets arranged and all. So like that is disarranged, and I like say something, and it's small things like that that make you realize you're so quick to interact with sansar at sansaric level that you forget the bhav and the purpose. But the reason why you're interacting with that food is because of the bhav and the purpose. But that completely is forgotten, right? So in any action that we do, it's a question needs to always be brought about is, what is the purpose of this, and with what intent would I like to do it? Then whatever result happens, happens. And if imagine if you actually had that bhav of gratefulness of that food on your plate, and if the salt was a little more or a little less, it wouldn't even bother, because you'd still be filled with gratitude. You may give the feedback, but it certainly wouldn't be a point of fight,
Yeah.
And so that's, and so we'll talk about this with a lot more examples going forward. Visalakshi and Kakoli. So Visalakshi, your hand's been up for quite a while.
Can I just,
Yeah, yeah.
before we take Vijayalakshi's question, coming
Yeah,
back
sure.
to your specific question, Anupama, desire between the two is there is a distinction. So you don't go desire less. There is, nature doesn't like vacuum. The when we say desirelessness here, it is desirelessness for worldly things. But basically, our desire has to transmute itself into a desire for our ultimate welfare. So desire from prem has to move to a desire to shreya. A desire for worldly objects has to transform into desire for our self-realization, for God realization. So you will definitely have desire. And that is the difference between the two types of desires. That one desire is a good desire to have, a must desire to have. The other desire is something that we need to eliminate from our lives.
So basically, the desire of, like when you are working and giving your best and then sacrificing other things, I mean, the worldly things for achieving the best version of yourself in your work or whatever you're doing, you're following your art and all, is a right desire to have, which transcends you to, a better version of yourself. Whereas a desire of worldly pleasures is would be the wrong in terms of materialistic gain or emotional gains and all that.
So it is very specific to a certain situation. When you put it in a very abstract way like this, it is difficult to give a more specific answer, because I can tell you that the example that you just gave, there can be a right way or a wrong way to look at it as well. So it's very specific to context. So that's why it would be really good to get context in before we, if you're talking of something that you're referring to in your life. For example, I want to give my very best to my office, and so I'm like working the hours that need to be done. At the very high level, it just sounds like, yeah, that's like a really good thing to do. But how you're going about it, and if that is causing you to neglect your other duties in life, then you may have to reflect back and see whether it makes sense. Because we've heard a lot of people who would be these, the breadwinners in the family, who are like, oh, I'm doing this for my family, and he's like spending 20 hours at work, traveling all the time, not spending any time with the family. And the answer is always, I'm doing this for the family. But you really have to sit down and ask, are you really doing it for the family, or are you doing it for something else?
For your
Right?
own self,
Yeah.
your own ambition and your own.
Correct. So these kind of questions, like we always say, right? At an action level, we cannot really say. It depends. Ultimately, you have to think about your shreya. Now, shreya can transform into various types of actions, and sometimes the same action can be looked at differently. Okay.
I see.
Yeah,
Right.
Visalakshmi.
Visalakshi, yes.
What is the difference between the karma yogis and sages? Sages usually they don't do much karmas. Like we have a lot of work to day life, right? But the karma, like sages, they usually they go forest and sit meditate. Then how they destroy the karmas? Just I want to curious to know about what is the difference.
So the
So,
sages
so
that
we'll
you,
come to that.
yeah.
We'll come to that question when we read the second paragraph. That will become slightly clearer, and we'll
Okay,
talk a
yeah,
bit more about that then.
yeah. Okay.
Kakuli?
Okay, I have a question. Like, as Tuhina said, that when you do something, you know that God has given you the opportunity to do it, and you do it well. Now, there is this a transient phase in your life when you yourself are aware of it. You are in such a class, or you are reading more scriptures, or getting more connected to the spiritual side, and you are aware, but the world is not aware. And around you, people think, oh, I mean, why do you have to do it? You look like a fool. You are not worldly wise in front of your friend circle or the society. And you feel they are thinking that you are not so worldly wise. So, how do you handle uh, that? I know it is ego. I know you will say that it is your ego that is getting hurt, but how do you how do you transit through that phase when you know, you are aware that you have a higher goal to play, but people around you are not, and they are questioning it, or they are thinking maybe you are just putting it up.
Yeah. So it's a so the first part, coming to that, you're spot on that you're doing it for yourself. So you are seeing the change. You are finding the peace, hopefully, within yourselves as you go through different situations, right? We're not doing it for others. We're not doing it for others to acknowledge us. We're not doing it because others think we become wiser. All of that is immaterial. We're doing it to find peace within ourselves, right? The second thing is our job. So our purpose is not to convince others either, to bring come into the Gita Parivar or influence them, or to say, hey, I'm doing it, you're not, and I'm getting so much, you're not getting, you're so confused, you're so anxious, you're struggling. Like, our job is not to do any of that. The entire name of the program is called the Home Radiation Program. And the reason why it's called the Home Radiation Program is because it starts with an individual. As you radiate peace, that aura of divinity, automatically others will come to you. But in the beginning, like even Gandhi's very famous quote, right? In the beginning, they mock you, then they criticize you, then they fight you, then
Follow you.
they
Obviously.
follow you, or something like that, right? And that's the exact same journey we go through as well with a lot of our people around us, right? And as you change, as you evolve, this is part of your prarabdha, Kakoli. This is part of your destiny, that you are surrounded by certain type of people, and the way you deal with it essentially is question, either change the topic of conversation, because there's no point bringing a conversation which might be contentious, which makes you feel uncomfortable. And it's not because of them, it's because we are not capable enough to handle it, because it affects us right now. So, okay, I will stay away from that as long as I can. And the second is, uh, uh, create, I mean, I would say, I wouldn't use the word avoid people, but I would say limit your interaction with certain types of individuals who provoke you. Again, not because of them. They are who they are and they're fine. It's just that we are going through a transformation, and we cannot handle that right now. And as we go through more of the principles, it's only been a month or so since you've joined, right? As we go through this deeper and deeper and deeper, you are you will get cleaner from the inside. Your antakaran will get cleaner, and you'll find that strength to deal with these situations with the right way.
So, as an example, now this is an oft-quoted example that has been given in our classes as well, and resonates because it sometimes has caused me to change my behavior. For example, now we understand that gossip is not a great activity to indulge in. Okay. Now, if I go to a party and and we come out of that party in a state of gossip, where what are we talking about? Oh, was the food good or not good? This was good, that was not good. How did this person behave? What did that person wear? Or what were they doing or their behavior? If we come out of that party with that state of mind, then it is very clear that that party is a kusang, and I must avoid it because it helps to it is it is curtailing my divinity that I'm trying to come out, that I'm trying to evoke out of me, right? So now there's nothing wrong with that party or the people or that situation. Okay, it's just that right now I am unable to be there and retain my divinity. As we grow, you will at some point of time you will reach a stage where you will be exactly in that party, doing exactly the same things, being with exactly the same set of people, and you will come out with a satbhav, where you will be happy that you were there, that you interacted with those people. You will have a great time, and you will not be in any gossipy mood. Then you have achieved that state where you can be in that space and not let anything around it touch you. There will come a third stage where the divinity inside of you will be so strong that it will alter the conversations around you, not by you forcing it on them. It will happen automatically, where people will know this is a person who doesn't like to gossip. They will stop gossiping around you. They will gossip amongst themselves, but with you they are going to be different people, and they will they will express much more divine qualities in front of you. And that is an impact of the divinity that you're radiating from within, because of your actions, your thoughts, your bhav, your purpose with which you interact with the world. It will change things around you. Whether it changes people or not is not your concern, but their interaction with you will change.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
And
our
it will be a
focus.
slow it will be a slow process, but it's a sure process.
Yeah, so I mean, our focus has to purely be on ourselves and our antakaran ki shuddhi. Antakaran basically means mind, ego, and intellect, which is very, very, I would say, influenced by a lot of our past actions. This is where a lot of our scorecard is kept. A lot of our desires stem from here, and as we clean that, we would be able to deal with these situations more effectively. We'd have greater control over our mind and ego. So we'd have a better situation, better control of where it gets. It,
End of the day, your objective is not to avoid situation and the people, but it is you who how you respond and react to
no,
any
100%.
situation, people.
100%. It's just that sometimes in the beginning, if something like Tuhina is saying, taking you away from your divinity, and you don't have this strength to handle it, there's no point going and poking yourself, poking that bear, right? It's easier to just take a step back and avoid it for a while, strengthen your own antakaran or clean your own antakaran, and then approach that same situation.
It's
And
like trying to raise weights. You will not start. You know that there is a weight there that is a 10 kg weight. You've never done this before. You're going to fail. Start with 1 kg, 2 kg, 3 kg, 5 kg. Eventually, you will be able to raise the 10 kg weight too. So it is sensible to avoid picking up the 10 kg from day one. It is sensible. It is wisdom there, and it is foolish, in fact, to try and go and try to do that in the first place. So there is that distinction that we need to be able to derive, and that wisdom will come, what to avoid and what to engage with. That is also wisdom. We don't have to engage with everything. Withdrawal is an action that must be thought through, as long as it is not a reaction, right? You respond and not react. And as a response, sometimes withdrawal is a good response strategy, depending on a situation. Okay. But specifically to Kakoli's question, right? It's a question that Arjuna has asked for as well, and Lord has very specifically answered for us in Shlok 2.69. So I would love for you to go back to 2.69. All of you, can you open up to 2.69? Let's just read that, because it's something that we all will experience as we go through this journey. So Shloka 2.69, it says, या निशा सर्वभूतानां तस्यां जागर्ति संयमी यस्यां जागृति भूतानि सा निशा पश्यतो मुनेः. Very clearly he says what Kakoli is experiencing as well, that there is a difference between the people who are on this journey, who are karma yogis, who are striving for perfection, versus those who are not on this path of nishtha. And the difference in their outlook for the things is going to be as different as day or night. So what constitutes a day for a sage or a karma yogi will look like night to the worldly people, and they'll say, what kind of foolish decisions are you making, and what will cause worldly people to be excited about and to engage in, may be as dark as night for the people of karma on the path of nishtha. It is to be expected and has been put down here in Gita as well. So it will happen, it will, let us be aware of it, and then learn how to deal with it slowly, one thing at a time, and it will come in three stages.
All right. Let's continue reading. Quickly.
Absence of doership in Jnana Yoga. On establishing oneself in Jnana Yoga, a person achieves the supreme state of perfection. The sense of doership in actions is completely eliminated. For this reason, such a man does not regard himself as a doer of any action. Whatever action is committed, it is regarded as the result of action and interaction of the three modifications of primal nature. To take an example, the sun is millions of kilometers away from the earth, but when it rises, all the diverse activities in the world commence. As soon as the sunlight starts fading, there is a gradual slowing down of these activities, and ultimately everyone goes to sleep. Even though all the activities are directly related to sunlight, the sun is totally detached from them and it accepts no responsibility for any results flowing therefrom. Similarly, a Sankhya yogi established in the discipline of Jnana Yoga clearly understands that all actions are done by the three modifications of nature, which is activized by the dynamic power of the soul force. He regards none of his activities as being done deliberately, and thus he does not have any sense of doership in any of them. As such, the question of giving up or not giving up the external effort on his part does not arise.
Yeah. So I think Visalakshi, this very beautifully explains what you had asked, right? The difference between Karma Yogi and Sankhya Yogi.
Yeah, right,
So
right.
Sankhya Yogi also live in the world. They also are interacting with the world. But just like the sun, which powers the world, right? And as it rises up, there's a whole bunch of activity that happens. By noon, everyone's awake, everyone's doing a lot of things, trying to like get things done, their to-do list, taking care of their kids, etc. And as it starts sunsetting, the activity starts going down. It starts getting quieter and quieter till when it's dark, everyone's gone to sleep. But the sun has nothing to do with any of the activities.
Right.
The sun did not do anything. It was the presence of the sun that created the interaction, right? So the the Sankhya yogi understands that all action is a result of the interaction of the three modifications of primal nature. The three modifications of primal nature are Sat, Raj, and Tam. Everything in this world is intertwined with these three strands.
They are composed
Of
these
these
three
three strands.
strands.
So you have Satagun, you have Rajagun, and you have Tamagun. So there's an entire chapter where we learn about these three gunas, which is called primal nature in English, and it's the starting point of creation of samsara. Because everything in samsara is a subset of it. And I think I've given this example in the past. You can very few people, or in fact, most of us, you wake up early in the morning at 6 o'clock, you wouldn't want to go binge watch Netflix.
Yes.
because that's considered a useless activity.
Yes.
Time of day in the morning, typically at 6, is a Sataguni time. You want to create, you want to do something, you want to write, you want to read, you'd want to get your work done, you'd want to get ahead of the day. That's the state of mind you're in. You want to do your yoga, you want to, make the most of it. By the time noon comes in, you're fully seeped in activity. Now you just want to do transaction, you want to do business, you want to eat, you want to interact, you want to meet people. All of that happens. And as evening comes in, all the useless activities will come in. You want to sit around and gossip, you want to relax, you want to watch TV, you want to have a drink. You We tend to eat our biggest meals as dinners rather than breakfast because that tamagun is highest, so our tongue is salivating the most, right? When we all know that, oh, we actually need food early in the day to survive rest of the day, but dinner just tastes so good, man. That extra chapati, that extra naan, it just feels so good at dinner, right? That's the tamaguni bhav. Yeah, Tumina is laughing because personal reasons. uh,
So,
Yeah.
so sorry, I
but the
digress.
way he put it, you might think that tamogun is bad. Excess of tamogun is bad. Tamogun is a very important part of things as long as it is not in the
Yeah,
driver's seat.
just like sunset is important, right? It slows things down and it refreshes everyone to come back to sunrise and enjoy it. And the same thing with tamagun. It's just that we do it in excess.
Or tamogun being in a driver's seat is what we need to avoid. Tamogun, as long as it is being driven by the satogun, is a good thing. Sleep is a tamoguni activity because it causes inertia. Very, very important for rejuvenation. As long as we are sleeping with a satoguni bhav that I need this sleep to refresh my body, to refresh my senses, to refresh my mind so that I can again get up to do my duty in the best possible activity. That's a tamoguni activity being guided by a satogun. That is a good thing to do. But a tamoguni activity like sleep, just doing because I don't feel like doing it and I'm just being lazy and I just want to continue to sleep very, very long hours, not a good thing, right? So again, going
So,
back to that purpose, not the action itself.
the reason why we're saying all this is because everything in the world is an interaction of these three gunas. The Sankhya yogis understand that. So
And see it like that
they see the world
at
like
all
that.
times. Yeah.
They see the world like that as well. So they just show up as the sun and they allow for that interaction of the gunas to take
Happen.
place,
Yes.
and they're able to be one step removed from interacting.
Now, as an example, like when Vijayalakshmi, you said that the sage will come and the sage doesn't do anything. He just goes into this thing and retires, and he doesn't have any activity to do. Actually, that's a misperception
Uh-huh.
because a sage has a body, right?
Right.
A Sankhya yogi has a body. His
Mm.
body is constantly in action. That means he has to find water, he has to find food to feed it, he has to sleep. There are activities that he's doing constantly and he's interacting with the world for that. Food doesn't come by itself. Will he go and search for food will he forage? Will he go to a village to ask for alms? Bhiksham Dehi? Will he do that? And all of that is an action. And how does he do it? With what bhav does he do it? He's not thinking of doing it as a person who is going and asking somebody and that somebody is giving him food. His way of looking at it is very different.
Mm.
This body needs food. It is going and asking and doing things. The speech is there. That words that are coming out of his mouth, they are not what he's not powering them. It is just happening. He's just there as a witness. He's not involved at all in
Yeah.
anything.
Mhm.
A karm yogi is involved in the action.
Yeah, I mean, without judging
Mm.
and without labeling, um, one could say, like a Sai Baba from Puttaparthi, one could say a lot of other people like him, they've been Sankhya yogis. They've come in, they've interacted with the whole world, they've created a ton of positive change. But if you ever read about their lives and the way they led their lives, you would be blown away by how detached they were. They made decisions. They ate, like I remember reading somewhere that he all he ate was one bowl of papaya for lunch and something even lighter for dinner. And he spent 6 hours every day meditating, connecting, getting his energy from the Lord, being in that state, and then did whatever work he had to do. Right? So their approach is just very different.
Mm. They're detached from the regular world, right?
Yeah.
Abhinay, just your voice is a little weaker than the other speakers, because is I don't know why,
Yeah,
but soft Karel.
I tend to move back. I'm sorry.
No, I'm just bringing to your notice because normally we bring it up and lower the volume something. Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
sorry, I just thought I'd bring to your notice.
Okay. All right. Anupama, would you like to read the connection?
In this manner, for a karma yogi, renunciation of duties is a great hindrance in the achievement of perfection. And for a Sankhya yogi or a Jnana yogi, performance or renunciation of action has no meaning. After explaining this, the Lord says, Nahi kaschit
No, no, two minutes reading.
Nahi kaschid kshanamapi
nahi kaschit kshanamapi
jatu tishtatya karma krit
jatu tishtatya karmakrit
karyate hyavanshah karma
karyate vyashah karma
hyavashah karma
hyavashya karma
sarva prakriti jairgune
sarva prakriti jair gune
nahi without any doubt nisandeh kaschit koi bhi any kshan moment api bhi also jatu in any moment tishthatya रहता is or stays कर्मकृत बिना कर्म किए without doing an action कार्यते बाध्य किया जाता है is forced to कार्यते is forced to here क्योंकि because वशः वश में in control कर्म is action सर्वः everyone prakriti jairgune the gunas of the nature. Anubhava, we can read, right, Alex?
Indeed, no one can exist even for a moment without performing some action or the other. Everyone has to act compulsorily under the impelling force of gunas of the primal nature, compulsive nature of action for everybody. In this shloka, the Lord says that the possession of a body and limbs binds one with the compulsion of doing something or the other all the time, voluntarily or involuntarily. There are three faculties in a human body which are engaged in one action or series of actions, namely mind, speech, and senses. Get up, sit, sleep, think, dream, speak, walk, move, contemplate. Any or all of these activities are forever going on. It is not possible for anybody to stop even for a moment. The external effort involved in any of them, whether one likes it or not, some activity or the other will go on taking place. The reason is that the mind, speech, and senses, and of course the body, are composed of the three modifications of primal nature: Sattva guna, enlightenment; Rajoguna, dynamism; and Tamoguna, inertia. These interact with each other all the time. The interaction takes place with the energy supplied by the consciousness of the self. The only course open is to determine the cognition which is to be associated with such actions and interactions, and to regulate those actions with the help of these cognition.
Yeah. I think it's very, very clear. We've talked about this earlier as well, that there is no possibility for you to not be in action. Okay, Lord has made it very clear in this shloka and the previous one. you don't have a choice about not doing an action, whether you like it or not. Now, that action has to be done. The only choice you have is the bhav with which you will do that action. That's it. You have to do something, you will be compelled to do it, right? And when you get compelled to do it, what is the bhav you will bring to that action? Will you be upset, irritated, angry, or have this feeling of like, oh, I am the one doing something for others, so they must be grateful to me? Or are you coming to it with a feeling of gratefulness that I have been given an opportunity to do this seva? I am doing this for my own uddhar, and I'm grateful to everyone involved for whom I'm able to give this seva. So that is the only choice we have, no other choice. So if you think that you have a choice of like, okay, had a fight, like, oh, I'm not going to do the work that you asked me to do, right? That is being driven by your gunas, your emotions, and your nature, right? That is not. If you think that you are, you will not do an action, is that actually is itself a choice and an action by itself, and that is creating bondage because it is not being driven by the right bhav, purpose. You're being driven by emotion. You're being driven by the worldly sansar, and all of that, by the way, is your gunas that are interacting.
What is the
What
meaning
is
of uddhar?
Uddhar is your ultimate welfare, Shreya that we talked about. Your basically your ultimate benefit, your ultimate welfare to have self-realization, right? And all these actions, reactions that we are doing, they come from the composition of the three gunas that then also create our prarabdha and our, that little box of destiny that we talked about. And how do we work with all of this, right? We have a certain nature, as we see, right, as our predisposition that we have, and then we have to live through our destiny through the prarabdha and all. So how do we live through this sanskar and this prarabdha? Is through our purusharth, the free will. We have to use that free will to rise above our sanskars, our predisposition, and to rise above the situations that come to us as a part of our destiny, to act in the right way, to respond to them with the right bhav, rather than react to them and in the process create more bondages.
So I'll give you a simple example for this shloka, right? Like, suppose my responsibility every morning is to get Vedant, our son, ready to school and take him to school. Okay, that's my responsibility. I've taken that on. This is what we've been doing. One day I wake up upset because we argued or whatever, and I said, "Many karunga." Right? That inaction does not mean the subsequent thing doesn't happen. If I'm in that state of mind, I'm guaranteed Tuina will be like, fine, don't do it. She'll take it on, she'll do it, she'll get him ready, she'll drop him off to school. Similarly, in the world, if you don't act and do your duties, that action that needs to happen will still happen. But by my inaction, I've just collected more prarabdha.
And that inaction is an action.
That inaction is an action, and I've collected more prarabdha. Tuhina, on the other hand, because she rose above and took Vedant to school, has probably burnt her prarabdha.
And so be grateful to him for giving me that opportunity to burn some of my prarabdha.
Correct. But that's a very simple example that, of course, it doesn't happen in reality, but it's a simple example here about how we are compelled to do things by nature. And if we don't, then that will still happen. Yeah. All right. Let's continue reading.
Vijay? Vijay, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here. Sorry.
Let's read. Connection, please.
One second.
You can read the connection. The question now arises.
Yeah, the question now arises whether it is possible to give up mental activity by stopping the work of the senses. On this, Lord says,
Karmendriyani sanyamya.
Karmendriyani sanyamya.
Ya aste manasa smaran.
Ya aste manasa smaran.
Indriyarthan vimudhatma
Indriyatan vimudatma
mithyacharasa uchyate.
mityacharasa uchyate.
So karm indriyani is hat purvak. Uh, in karm, the karm
Restraint on one's
indriyani.
senses.
So karm indriyani is all the senses. Indrani are the senses of action or the sources of action. Sanyam by controlling them. Ya, jo, who, आस्ते रहता है exists. Mansa is manse from your mind. Smaran याद करता है, thinks of. इंद्रियार्थान विमूढ़ात्मा. इंद्रियार्थान is इंद्रियों के विषयों का, the objects of the senses. विमूढ़ात्मा मूढ़ बुद्धि, ignorant person. Mithyacharah, mithya achar means false action, false behavior. One who is jhuta, one who is indulges in falsehood. Sa uchyate, we call him that. Okay.
If you can read that, Alex.
One who putting restraints on one's senses sits quietly, but with one's mind dwelling on the objects of senses is deceiving oneself and is fit to be called a hypocrite.
Yeah.
Stopping senses by force, mere sham. The senses can be stopped from indulging in pleasure by force also, but such an effort would be in vain, because while the body would be inactive, the mind would be vigorously active in thoughts of sense pleasures. Such a person has been described by the Lord as hypocrite.
Yeah.
The
So,
mind,
so I
sorry,
think uh, explaining this uh, very in a detailed manner, right? There are always two levels to. There are many different levels, but in this shloka, we're talking about two levels of interaction. Every time I put sugar on my tongue will feel its sweetness, right? It is the mind that comes after that that says, ah, I like the sugar, or ah, I don't like the sugar, right? The tongue is not the one to say, I like it or don't like it. The tongue just responds by saying, making you taste the sweetness. In this shloka, Bhagavanji is saying that just by stopping the senses, the mind does not go away, because you may stop putting sugar on the tongue, but if your mind is constantly hankering for sweets, then you've lost the game. You've lost the purpose of the action completely. It only creates agitation inside of you, right? We've all done fasting at some point in our lives, right? And uh, the result always is that if you're fasting but you feel energized by through that experience and you feel good about it, then great. But I know I have done fasting in which all I can think about is the next meal, and I'm just like, all I'm thinking about is food, and oh my god, when I break my fast, I'm going to eat this and that, and we'll order from here, and like all of that. Of course, the purpose of me doing that fast is completely gone, because I've not controlled my mind, right? The purpose of the fast is not only to control senses but also to control the mind. And that's what Bhagwanji is saying, that just by controlling senses, you and not controlling the mind, you're uh, you're called a hypocrite. As a karma yogi, our job is the opposite. Let the senses interact with the world. Our focus is to control the mind. Let us have pleasure. Let us enjoy the jalebis. Our focus is to control the mind, the bhav. Don't get attached to that jalebi. If it comes your way, you enjoyed at a party, badhiya. But if it's not there, you shouldn't have that craving for it. Right? So I have a story here to share, uh, which is uh, these two monks, right? No, I'll actually share the other story. So there were two gentlemen, brothers, Tavrit and Savrit. And they both used to go to the temple uh, to listen to the Bhagavatam every day. One day, it started raining really heavy when they were on their way to the temple. So they both ran into the next building they could find, and the rain was just like lightning, storm, and vagera vagera. Once they entered that building, they realized they'd entered a brothel where women were dancing and pleasing men, and that was the environment that they were in. So Tavrit and immediately looked at it and said, "What is this? No way, we can't stay here with children of God, ye wo." And he ran to the temple, right? He said, even if I'm soaking wet, I want to be at the temple. So he's sitting at the temple, and Savrit says, "No, no, I'm going to stay here." Now, Tavrit reaches the temple, and during the entire session of the Bhagavatam, he is thinking about, hey, did I make a mistake? Look at Savrit, he must be having so much fun at that place here. He's actually like, I could have also stayed there. Why am I here? Ye wo vagera. Savrit, on the other hand, is in the brothel and thinking, hey man, maybe I should have gone to with Tavrit. He's done the right thing. Have I got stuck here? I'm not going to melt if I go in the rain. I should have actually been there. His entire mind is there. They both walk out and lightning strikes them and they both die. Yamraj takes Tavrit and takes him to hell. And he's like, hey, no, 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 I was the one at the temple. You don't take me. Take my brother. He was the one at the brothel. He's like, no, no, there's no mistake. He's like, your brother was in the brothel, but his mind was in the temple. And he was focused on the temple. And you were in the temple in the right place, but your mind was in the brothel. Right? And that's the power of this interaction. That it's not about the sense and the sense object. It's about the mind and how we perceive it. Right? I have a second story here, which is two Zen monks had taken a vow never to touch a woman again. And one was an old monk who'd done that for 50, 60 years, and one was a young monk, 30, 35 years. And there was a huge flood, and they were crossing a very dangerous river when they see a beautiful young woman stranded, and she screams for help. And they both look at each other and they're like, oh, but we've taken a vow never to touch the woman. How do we do this? So without a moment's hesitation, the old monk goes without saying anything. He picks up the woman in his arms, helps her cross the river, puts her on the other side. She goes, and the two monks walk. The younger monk is very agitated. He's like, how did he break his vow? He's supposed to be the guru, he's supposed to be the teacher. So, first hour in silence, second hour in silence, third hour they walked, were traveling together in silence. And then finally, the younger monk was just too disturbed, he was too agitated. He's like, how? Why did you pick that woman? You've broken your vow. And the older monk said that I left the woman at the riverbank. Why are you still carrying her with you? Right? It's not the sense and the sense object, it's the mind. That's where we have to do our control mechanism. Yeah. So a person who says, oh, I'm controlling the senses, but they get so agitated when that comes in their field of perception, then you know that the work needs to be done internally, not externally. Please continue reading.
The mind of such person is foolishly engaged in contemplating the sense pleasures. It is true that while engaged in meditation also, an aspirant strives to keep senses inactive. In the initial stages of disciplining the mind, it is quite possible to find, in spite of external control of senses, the mind constantly preoccupied by and straying into thoughts of sense pleasures. If such a novice is sincere and keen, he would not try to pose as a saint. It takes a long time and constant practice to control the mind. In this sloka, however, the Lord has condemned those who make sham display of external control of senses, not for an internal vision, but for external demonstration without any effort to control the mind.
Yeah. So I think between these two stories and this explanation, this makes it quite clear.
Yeah. Another thing is that, when we start off now, we will be in a space where we are controlling our senses, but our mind is still going back to that. It's important to note that there is no need to, like, don't beat yourself about it. As long as you're aware that this is a journey, and my ultimate goal is to have detachment from a mind level, then it is fine. So, for example, I get upset. Now I'm trying to control my anger. I get upset. I used to, like, scream out, shout out to people. Now, because I'm trying to control it, I still get upset. I still get angry, but I'm not going to scream and shout. I'm going to walk away from the situation. I'll go out, I'll calm myself down, but I'm still angry. And in my mind, I'm still going blah, 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 blah. Okay. Eventually, now, if I stay in this state forever and try and project to others, like, look how cool I am because I do not shout at people, but internally I get all that agitated, no one else knows about it, then I'm a hypocrite. But as long as I'm being honest about it, I am trying hard, I'm not there yet, and this is what's happening, then it's fine. Then you're not a hypocrite, you're just a yogi on your
You're a
journey.
seeker.
You're a seeker, and that's fine, that's totally fine. With your mind there, just go there, be honest to yourself of where you want to be and where you are along the way.
I think we should stop here. It's about time.
Yeah.
All right. Should we do the closing shlokas? By the way, some of the new people that joined, I don't have your birthdays. So I will probably ping you separately, or if you can ping me individually, just letting me know your birthday so we can keep a roster. So I think we did it last week, but we celebrate everyone's birthday the Gita way, sing a special song, a prayer, and send our best wishes. So we'd love to do it for everyone in the class. Yeah. So just whenever, if all the new people, all the old people, I think you've sent it to me, but the new ones, if you can send me a birthday so I can keep track of it. All right. Stop.
Okay. Om Sarvesham Swastir Bhavatu Sarvesham Shantir Bhavatu Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayaha Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukha Bhag Bhavet. Om Asato Ma Satkamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Narayan, Narayan.
Thank you, everyone.
Abhinav, I couldn't connect through my iPad. It was asking for password with the same link, whereas I could just connect with my phone straight, clicking the link.
So I think in the middle of the class, right in the beginning of the class, we updated the link. So try with the iPad with the new link on WhatsApp. And
हाँ मैंने किया लेकिन वो password मांग रहा है. I constantly was trying,
Okay,
but
I'll send you the link right now again.
हाँ, does it have a password?
It has the link. It has the password as part of the link.
Okay, but then
after this class, let's try again.
It has a
Yeah.
separate password also. You can enter that. So it happened to me as well. So you would need to enter the password when it connects.
Actually, just guide me, whoever, how to, because I kept trying and I was scared my battery will run, die
Sure.
any minute. Sorry. So just help me on that. Thank you.
Great. Now.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Narayan,
Narayan, Narayan.
Bye.
Narayan,
you.
Narayan. Bye.